Okay, Phi Theta Kappa, how did we get here? How did we go from one chapter to 8 to over 1,000? How did we go from being in one state to being in all the states to being on the outside of the United States? In preparation for our 100th birthday, we have held a mirror up to the society. And not only have we learned the answers to those questions, I have found our history to be a fantastic source of inspiration and guidance for our future. And if you haven't figured it out by now, you're about to get a history lesson from a mathematician. So hold on to your gold key member pins. It is going to get interesting. History lesson number 1 for you. Think big. In the beginning, our founders knew Phi Theta Kappa was going to be a very big deal. And while we started here in Missouri, and it took us 10 years to establish a chapter on the outside of Missouri, the vision of this organization was always to be everywhere. To take a quote from my favorite Broadway play, Hamilton, yeah, he'll be here tomorrow. The plan was to fan the spark into a flame. As you're sitting there, are you thinking big enough? Are you thinking, I'm not good enough for Harvard or Cornell or Columbia? If you're thinking those things, you are wrong. I know for a fact those schools would be lucky to have you. There are hundreds of studies of community college student success for transfer, and I have read every one of them, and I've written a few. And they all say the exact same thing. Community college students that transfer to four-year universities do just as well as the students that started there as freshmen. But you, as Phi Theta Kappans, you are more likely to be at the top of your class just as you are right now. Now, when I say think big, I want you to think really big. Don't think about just getting a job, think about creating them. Income inequality, a collapsing infrastructure, climate change, education reform, these problems need the very best minds in the world working on them. And I'm not a betting person. You will not find me in a casino, but I know my odds on you. I would bet on one of you, civic-minded, curious, intellectual, and energetic students to solve these problems for all of us. I recently had an opportunity to talk to a Phi Theta Kappa member who I consider an expert on thinking big. His name is Fred Hayes. You probably saw him in the video. Fred told me that his membership in Phi Theta Kappa was a turning point for him. He said it gave him the confidence to think big. Now, Fred went from a graduate of Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College, there you're there, to second in his class in aeronautical engineering from the University of Oklahoma, all the way to the moon. So I asked Fred if he had some advice to share with you all tonight, and he said, Lynn, make sure to tell them to get a plan, even if that plan changes. And I counted it 7 times in our conversation. He said, tell them hard work pays off. It did for me and it will for them. Fred wants you to think big thoughts, dream big things, and never sell yourself short. Okay, history lesson number 2. Relationships matter a lot. Right out of the gate, this honor society made a very important decision, the name of the society. Phi Theta Kappa was not just pulled out of thin air. It was intentional. We worked alongside Phi Beta Kappa, a very prestigious and well-known honor society, and it still is. We changed one Greek letter. And we modeled ourselves after them in the beginning fully as a recognition only at the time of graduation honor society, very different from what we are today. And even though we went our own way, we owe a great deal of debt and gratitude to Phi Beta Kappa for giving us a roadmap to the success that we enjoy today. Now, 10 years later, we would take a giant step for the society. And that is when our members petitioned the American Association of Junior Colleges, now known as the American Association of Community Colleges, to recognize us as the official honor society of two-year colleges. And they did, and we still are. But when I think about it, our relationship with AACC is the most important, significant in our history. Not only did AACC shape the second part of our mission to provide opportunities for you to grow as scholars and leaders, the growth of Phi Theta Kappa outside of the state of Missouri was a direct result of their recognition of us. It gave us a stamp of approval, the AOK signal across the nation for college presidents to start a chapter on their campus. Many of you know Phi Theta Kappa celebrates its Founders Day on November 19th of each year, but it's not at all the day we were founded. It's the day the AACC found us and recognized us as the official honor society of two-year colleges. I think if I look, the third most significant relationship in our history was with a man named Dr. Jack Geis White. He was a transfer recruiter for Florida Atlantic University, and in 1975, he established the very first transfer scholarship, opening the doors to 750 scholarships in the future. To you, these scholarships might represent money, and they do. But to me, each one represents a relationship between Phi Theta Kappa and the four-year schools. It's our stamp of approval, our AOK, that you are the best we've got. Phi Theta Kappa has a long history of making the right relationships with the right people at the right time. I believe this has set us apart from other organizations with similar missions, and it'll set you apart too. I encourage each of you to build meaningful and long-lasting relationships. Ask yourself, are you relationship driven? Because in today's world, being smart is not enough. Okay, history lesson number 3. Don't do it by yourself, because you really can't anyway. Initially, Phi Theta Kappa was a student-led, completely student-led organization. But as we grew, so did our need for guidance and additional leadership. And in 1967, we established the Phi Theta Kappa Board of Directors. At that time, we had 250 chapters, but we were growing rapidly. We established what is known as a constituency board, which is just a fancy way of saying each member of the board represents a group of people served by the organization. Our board is made up of a student, an alumni member, an honorary member, an advisor, a regional coordinator, a college president, and a staff member. I think you should be proud of your board of directors. They are a very diverse and knowledgeable group of people, and they are thoughtful and dedicated to moving this organization forward. But boards are not just for organizations. You can and should develop your own personal board of directors, your own tight-knit group of personal advisors. My personal board of directors is made up of diverse people who I consider know more than me in certain areas, except for math. Each one fills a very specific role and offer a unique perspective onto the problems that I am trying to solve. Some are experts in their field, others are encouragers, some are connectors, the kind of people that know everybody and want to make introductions, and some are truth tellers, the ones that keep it real by keeping you grounded. The chair of my personal board of directors is my stepfather, Wayne. I love my mother, but she's not even on my board. I have caught her more than once lying to me because telling me I'm awesome even when I'm not. Throughout my life, Wayne has been a teacher for me. I remember I got my driver's license, my learner's permit. So I got into the driver's side of the car for the first time. He gets into the passenger side. He looks at me and he goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm driving." And he goes, "No, you're not." And he knew something I didn't. He knew that I needed to walk before I could run. But before I was going to drive his car, I needed to learn a few things. I spent the next solid month, changing tires, checking oil levels, and all sorts of basic maintenance, yes. I know there are a few of you in the audience that are glad he did that, and I think I heard one. Yeah. In organizations and in life, a good board of directors can make all the difference in the world. But progress in life is not just about you. You have to learn to work together to be successful. Phi Theta Kappa recognizes this, and we seek to teach this in our activities. College project, honors and action, service learning, they're all team activities. Because we know to take the next innovative step in any field of study, you have to know where you are now and how you got there. But as time goes on, that gets more and more difficult for a single person to accomplish. What we need to realize is that innovation occurs in teams. And you do not need a team of people just like you, because then you just have a really big team of one person. Phi Theta Kappa, I believe you need diversity to go forward and accomplish complex problem solving. Diversity. So Phi Theta Kappa, let me end this by saying history never looks like history when you're creating it. So let's go make some, and let's be that catalyst that turns the spark into a flame. Happy birthday. Thank you.